Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bagpipe Tricks and Tips. Today we're going to be talking about hemping and how to do it properly so you don't have to constantly come back and add hemp to it or have your hemp slip. This is one of my least favorite things about bagpiping, so that's why it's taken me a while to do this video. So let's knock it out. Here's a selection of hemping materials. You have this white hemp, which I believe is made out of cotton. It's quite a bit thicker than the yellow unwaxed or either of the waxed hemps. So I like using this for a particular process of this. Then you have your yellow waxed hemp and your black waxed hemp. I like using the black waxed for the outside layer of hemp. I don't use much of the yellow waxed, even though it does the same as the black waxed. And then I have some actual cobbler's wax here and some beeswax. I find that using the black wax for the first layer of hemp doesn't really grab onto the hemp tenon. So this right here just doesn't seem to grab on, and then you end up having your hemp slip, and you can tell whenever you go to tune and whatever you're trying to push down or pull up on this doesn't want to move just because the hemp is slipping. So what I do is I use this white cotton hemp and I use cobbler's wax on it, and this stuff is really sticky, so you can see there's hemp stuck to it right now, and this does a really good job of grabbing onto the hemp tenon. So I'll show you how to get this onto this the easiest way that I know. All right, let's see if I can show this. So I'm going to use about 6 feet of this white hemp or cotton strand, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to take the cobbler's wax and put it between my thumb. I put the hemp between my thumb and the cobbler's wax. And once this cobbler's wax heats up is when it starts to get onto the hemp. A lot of times when you buy this, it comes in a little kit, and there'll be a leather patch that comes with it to help you from, I think, burning your thumb or your finger when you're doing this. So what I like to do is, I'll show you, hopefully you can see this from there. So I'll get myself out about 6 feet of the hemp, and I'll just set it on the ground, the roll, and I'll pull the hemp taut, and then I'll grab this and just slide it up and down. And once it warms up, it starts to go onto the hemp pretty easily. It gets pretty hot, so if you're not super tough like me, you'll want to use that leather piece to keep it from burning your hand, your finger. It's not too bad. And then you might have to do it off the end like this, or just cut the end off that you can't get to, that you're holding on to. But you'll see here in a second, I mean, it gets really hard to slide this on there, and it starts sticking to your fingers. So now let's see, you can see how dark it is. You can see where it's gone from being, hopefully you can see that, the hemp, and then there's cobbler's wax, and then no cobbler's wax. All right, so now you're going to take your waxed hemp, and you got your hemp tin in here. It has all the combs in it. You're going to really want to do your best to get this into every one of the combs nice and organized. So I like to have the hemp overlap a little bit there to get started, and then I'm going to get into each one of these grooves, and you're going to really want to get it tight for this initial wrapping on here. And I might not have done quite enough because this is a base midsection, and so it might take more than 6 feet, but 6 feet is usually enough for where it goes into the stocks or for a tenor. So you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on this, and doing a little bit better job than I am. It's kind of difficult with the camera in the way, but you really want to get it inside of these grooves. And you can see this stuff is really sticky. You can't even, when I put my fingers together, you can see it pulls my skin. And that's what you want. You want it to really grab onto this initial layer. So once you get past this initial layer, you can either continue on with the white hemp if you'd like, and using the white hemp is great if you have a drone that has an uneven bore to it that gets bigger as it goes in, and your whatever wants to slide in there. Like if it's doing this, like it might be tight like this, and then it just wants to drop down really quickly like that. That's where I'll show you in a subsequent video how to use hemp to resolve that issue, so you don't have to send your piece off to get rebored or sleeved. There's a way to use this really thick hemp to do a special way of hemping to avoid having to have woodwork done, and I'll do that in my next video. So now that you've gotten there, I would cut off this white hemp. So that's what I'll do now. All right, so now we've done the initial layer with the cobbler's waxed white hemp, and then you can use either your yellow waxed or black waxed, or if you prefer, you can buy the yellow unwaxed and wax it with beeswax. So I'm going to use black waxed on this. You know what, I'm going to use yellow wax so you can see it a little bit better. So I'm going to start this off the same way that I did this one, with it just overlapping a little bit. So whenever I go around, it's going to bind on it some. And this is where you really, I'm still going to apply quite a bit of pressure here. And you're going to want to be going around nice and organized with it, and trying to create a uniform hemping from here to there, from one side to the other. And as you can see, I didn't do a very good job with my initial layer there of hemp. I think you can see it there, where you see all these nooks and crannies, these valleys. You got to really get in there and get the hemp in there. It's kind of like when someone makes you an English muffin and they don't bother to get butter deep in those nooks and crannies, like that. Not acceptable. Or when you don't bother to floss your teeth because it takes too long and you just don't care about doing a good job or proper dental hygiene. Or when you're using soap in the shower and you just do a quick once over, you know you didn't do a good job. And if someone does a close inspection, you'll know you didn't even bother. Okay, so I've done a couple layers on this, and I've done it quite poorly. And I did this so you can see that it's not very even. And I learned this trick from an awful human being by the name of George Solomon. He's a guy from England, and he has the worst Australian accent ever. But even really bad people, sometimes you can learn stuff from them. So what I saw him do, and it's really interesting, is while he was hemping his bagpipe, he took it, the hemp tenon, on the edge of a table like this, and put his hand on it and rolled it back and forth a bit, with putting a bit of pressure on there. And what that did was it caused the hemp to drop down into the grooves. Let's see if I can show you that a little bit better. And so then that shows where you need to add more hemp to have it be uniform straight across, because you just don't want it to be wider here and narrower down here. So just a series of that over and over again, just trying to find the dips or the valleys and fill them in, and then doing some rolling on the edge of a table. And you definitely want to check it with the piece that you're doing the hemping for, and you want this to be nice and snug all the way down. You don't want it to drop like that, and you don't want it to rock. Now this is a top joint, so I mean, even if it's showing a little bit of hemp, that's good or there, but you just don't want it to rock. So that's really how I go about hemping it. If you do a good job, take your time on it, you won't have to re-hemp it really ever again. It lasts a long time. So, and the purpose of the waxed hemp, in case you didn't know, is for moisture control. So as you're playing, and moisture will start to condense on the inside of the chamber bores, that will then drop down and get on the hemp. And if it's not a waxed hemp, if it's just a straight white hemp, that will expand and make it much harder for you to tune. So I'm going to show you another thing about the joints, the bottom joints that go into the stalks. Those are built in a specific way, and how you hemp them is really important to stop your stalks from cracking. I just took the hemp off this channer to show you this. If you look where the combs come towards the expanded portion of the channer, whether it's a channer or a bottom joint, tenor or base, you see this little step that's right there where there's no teeth or combs. This area right here, you're not actually supposed to put hemp. It should only be where the combs are at. And the reason for this, I believe, is that it leaves a gap for the hemp to expand into when it gets wet. So you can imagine if this had a stalk over it and the hemp went all the way down to here, and then that hemp gets wet with moisture, it's gonna expand out, and it can come this way some, but it's gonna mostly expand out because it's butted up against here. But if you leave this little gap, and this one doesn't have much of a gap there, some of them have more of a gap like this size, that hemp can now expand laterally rather than outwardly. And that helps to stop your stalks from cracking. I hope this video has answered all your burning questions about hemping a bagpipe. Be sure to check out the next video. I'm going to knock it out right now. If you have a bagpipe that has a bore that's not even, if it's tighter here and bigger here, and you have a situation where it's snug and then it just drops down, you know, all the way down like this. So my next video will show you how to use that white hemp to avoid having to have any work done on your chamber bore. Also, as you can see by the viewer count or the subscribers, I'm closing in on 1 million subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, pretend you're doing an attack. You're going to hit that bag, but instead hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You might not learn very much here. Matter of fact, I've never been invited to a big competition. But what you can do is take what I've taught you here, or try to teach you, and do the exact opposite maybe, and get an invite. Which brings up another thing. One of my next videos coming up, I'm going to be interviewing Bruce Gandy, a guy who's been invited to a lot of competitions, and he has not followed one single bit of advice that I've given on these videos. So tune in for that and listen to what he doesn't follow in my videos. All right, see you guys soon.